This is the 10-Minute Teacher Podcast with your host, Vicki Davis.
Episode 801, Empower Your Students. Tips to teach financial literacy like a pro. Today we're talking about financial literacy for April, which is Financial Literacy Month. Our students need the essential life skills to benefit them for the future. Today's sponsor, EVERFI, is my favorite resource for free, helpful financial literacy lesson plans to teach students financial concepts such as budgeting, saving, investing, and credit, which are important for financial stability and success. There are many amazing financial literacy resources out there, and this show will mention some great options for you. Make sure that you take time this month to make financial literacy part of your curriculum in every class that you teach. Now, on to the show. Former National Educator of the Year and CNN Money hero, visiting scholar with the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Brian has spent 15 years as an educator and was a former working group member of the U.S. President's Advisory Council on Financial Capability. Well, Brian, thanks for coming back on the show.
I'm thrilled to be here, and it's great to see you again, Vicki.
It's Financial Literacy Month for April of 2023, and we're going to talk about the importance of teaching financial literacy, why we teach it, and some different aspects of it. So when I know this has been your passion for many, many years, it's just financial literacy for all ages. Why should we start teaching financial literacy early?
Well, that's a good question. And I think for me and for my wife, it really hit home when we had children of our own. We recognized the opportunity to use money as a tool to teach our own children values. The other advantage is that it brings to life what could perhaps be a stale curriculum. I'll use mathematics as an example. I actually like math, but for some kids, it brings math to life when you add dollar signs, when you add scenarios that are relevant to their lives that they can identify with. It makes it easier for students to understand the concepts that are taught in the high school ages as our world becomes more complex, because as they go through the process of learning these complex financial literacy topics, it's like a fire hose of information. And if throughout their educational experience, they have been exposed to key concepts and terms, it's a lot easier for the students to be able to pull all of these ideas together and apply them to their own financial lives.
Totally agree with that. Right now, I'm teaching spreadsheets, Google Sheets, and Excel to my 8th graders. And the moment I taught them how to format the dollar signs, one of them said, "Oh, I'll use this." What is it about formatting and currency that they go, "Oh, I'll use this," right? The other one, I had a student who wrote on her website that she wanted to build generational wealth and retire at 45. Now that sounds good too, doesn't it?
Ooh.
I know it. It's like, who's teaching this child? Some kids are taught at home, but there are a lot of kids who are not taught at home. So it almost becomes an equity issue, doesn't it?
It does. We've been in years past on a pretty unlevel playing field. You had 4 or 5 years ago, only 5 states who required a semester-long class in personal finance to graduate. Fortunately, there's significant momentum. Fast forward to today, and there are now 17 states with that requirement, with multiple states that has pending legislation that looks promising. Georgia's one of them. I believe strongly that this momentum is going to grow significantly, because I can't think of a time that I've sat down with an adult and that adult has said that a kid should never learn to manage money. And if you want to get someone to agree with you, ask them whether or not kids should learn to manage money in high school. To a T, they're saying, that's the class I wish I would have had. That's the class that could have made a difference in my life. You can see and hear this resentment that they didn't have it, and how losing out on that opportunity has impacted their life. And they don't want that for their own kids. And I think that a lot of that now are parents recognizing it, and they're getting behind the momentum. And of course, it's the students themselves tasked with making significant financial decisions as a minor, as a high school student. Like, where are you going to go to college? What's the cost of borrowing going to be if you have to borrow? Are you going to get a credit card? How do you use it wisely? How do you use your bank account wisely? These aren't classroom topics that you just paint over. These are real life circumstances that kids face while they're in high school, and without the guidance of teachers who are educating them on how to use these tools, they don't know what to do.
Well, and there are emotional and psychological aspects of money management. There's impulse buying, there's budgeting for long term goals, and you really kind of get into that too when you start teaching it and you start having some real conversations, don't you?
You do. And I like to think that personal finance is more personal than finance. It's important as educators that we recognize our way of doing things might not be their best way of doing things. And our responsibility is to figure out how we can make what can be some pretty complicated concepts simple to understand and applicable to their lives using the tools that make it easier for us to behave in a way that we hope to behave to reach our own financial goals. A tool could be as simple as a mobile phone. It could be a tool, it could be a weapon, depending on how you're trained to use the apps on it. Another example is a credit card. A credit card can be very dangerous if you don't understand how to use it, or if you struggle with managing your own impulsive decisions with a credit card. And in which case, that student or that adult needs to recognize that maybe a credit card is not best for them. Maybe they should look at other tools that are going to be more suitable for their own behavior. Many other people recognize that a credit card, if used wisely, is an excellent credit building tool. It's an excellent way to earn reward points. I mean, just the fact that you can put something on your card and just pay it off the next day. We hear people say, hey, just pay your balance by the end of the month. Don't do that. Keep your utilization rate really close to 0%. Don't put anything on a credit card that you can't pay out of your checking account right away. And just pay the balance every day. Your credit score will explode over time. It'll take off like a rocket ship. And so when students recognize that there are strategies that they can use that not only manage money, but manage themselves, that's when they lean in. That's when they realize that there are things that they can learn applicable to their lives right now. Because some of the stuff, although it's complex, some of it's not. It doesn't take a genius to figure out that if you are spending less than you're earning, you're saving money. But that can be a challenging task. And that's why at CFPB, we have spent so much time exploring not just what concepts are important, but the psychology behind these concepts. The activities that we have are based on research, on what we know from the early ages through the concepts that are appropriate and the social and emotional learning strategies that are important to interject along the way. And when you look at the filtering tool, which we'll share with your listeners in a follow-up, you'll recognize that within that, there are opportunities for teachers to see what are called our building blocks. And our building blocks aren't just the scaffolding of concepts, they're the scaffolding of emotional intelligence needed to be able to make wise and informed financial decisions. So as an example, for my own children, when they were learning how to manage money initially, very little of it had to do with money itself. It had more to do with teaching them to delay gratification when they were 5, 6, 7 years old. And there were things that I could do to help not only teach them delayed gratification, but to reinforce the value of it. That is just one example of the types of strategies that are in our curriculum that set us apart from perhaps other folks that are unique. And I have to say, there's so much good stuff out there. That's a big advantage of weaving in financial literacy concepts, is that there's an abundance of free resources that are available for educators to be able to use in their classrooms.
Even when you use those free resources, the teacher is still needed. I mean, the conversations still need to happen. I know people who confuse money with love. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is say no. If they've been in an environment where they equate love with money, then it may make it difficult. Some of them will naturally come out as you go through your financial literacy courses. So as we finish up, Brian, what's your elevator pitch to the administrator who says, hey, Brian, my curriculum is so full, I don't have room for financial literacy in my high school?
Integrate financial literacy lessons or activities that can be put into existing lessons. Think plug and play. So rather than think of a curriculum that you would purchase off the shelf for personal finance, think of a filtering tool where you can input a number of variables, such as the age at which you teach. Let's say you're an elementary teacher. Up comes Money Monsters, which is free books that you can order, tangible books. You can order classroom sets for free that bring personal finance to life. Or you're a middle school math, or you're a social studies teacher in high school, or career tech, or English, and you click on your subject area. You click on the topic you want to teach. And what populates are financial literacy activities that are geared towards that specific teacher's subject area and age, that are understandable for the teacher and easy to embed in existing curriculum. All of it is free and it's easy to use.
Well, financial literacy should be taught at all ages. It's Financial Literacy Month. So as we're evaluating our curriculum, as we get ready to head into the summer, now is a great time to pull in some financial literacy. I know for my 8th graders, I teach them about profit and loss. Is it something I'm going to test them on? No, but they've heard net profit. They've heard gross profit. They've heard cost of goods sold. They've heard some of these things. And so I believe that as they're exposed to it later, whether they take accounting in high school or as they move forward, that it will be something that will be top of mind. So thank you, Brian. Everyone remembers that teacher, the study hall teacher who walked you through your first college application, or the social studies teacher who taught you what taxes were and how to file them, the math teacher who used student loans to show you how interest worked. Well, you can be that teacher, and EVERFI wants to help you make that kind of impact with free digital lessons for K through 12 students. From budgeting and banking to credit and savings, you'll find a financial literacy topic that's right for your classroom. And especially during April, Financial Literacy Month, there's no better time to equip students with smart decision making around finances. Learn how you can share these free resources with students and give them a financial foundation that lasts a lifetime. Just go to coolcatteacher.com/EVERFI. That's coolcatteacher.com/EVERFI. Thanks, EVERFI, for sponsoring today's episode.
You've been listening to the 10-Minute Teacher Podcast. If you like this program, you can find more at coolcatteacher.com. If you wish to see more content by Vicki Davis, you can find her on Facebook and Twitter under Cool Cat Teacher. Thank you for listening.